My wife was furious, so I wrapped her in a blanket and called her an angry caterpillar until she started laughing. What thing have you done to an angry person that made them crack up laughing and forget they were angry? My mom and sister were arguing furiously, so my mom shouted at my sister, "Lower your voice," to which she promptly responded by continuing to scream, just an octave lower. My mom busted out laughing and all was forgiven. It's still a family joke 10 years later. I imagined Karen from Will and Grace screaming and then immediately switching to James Earl Jones. When I would get into fights with my ex, I would discreetly pull out my nutsack and continue the argument until she would notice and say something along the lines of, "Did you have your testicles out this whole time?" Usually ended it right there. Sometimes when people are arguing, I will burst out, "I swear to God I will turn this car around." It's amazing at diffusing the tension. Up until last year I was a high school band director. Mid-marching band season, my band just started to get bitchy and cranky with each other, burned out, etc. Before rehearsal one day, I cleared the chairs and stands out of the band room and bought a bunch of those pool toys that are called noodles and put them in the middle of the floor. For about half an hour before rehearsal, we proceeded to beat the crap out of each other with said noodles. I was included in the beatings, along with my staff and some parents. We kept hush about it with the administration. I used to always have a bottle of something with me, usually water or Sprite, in a situation that started getting ugly. During the argumentative stage, I'd take a big mouthful of whatever I had and then continue my argument with the liquid flowing out of my mouth. Always ended it. One of my great horrors in life is sticky soda running on my face. If it makes it to my neck and makes my skin stick together, I will spend the rest of the day in the fetal position, chanting spiritual songs and gathering courage to make it to the shower for a good scrubbing. My husband will do this thing when I am irritated at him for something stupid, where he thrusts back and forth flapping his junk and it makes a funny smacking noise. It is even funnier when he isn't wearing pants. Gets me almost every time. He does other weird things to make me laugh every day. None can resist the thunderclap. When my little brother and I were younger and he would get upset with me, I used to look at him and say, "Whatever you do, don't laugh." And he would stay stoned face and my parents would come by and be like, "What's going on?" To which I would reply, "My little brother is busy not laughing, leave him alone." To which my parents would stare at him. So there would be the three of us staring at him. Then my older brother would come down, see us staring at him and then start staring, and then slowly you could start to see him fighting it and a small grin would fight its way out from under his nose and he burst out laughing. Frick yeah, I used the same method when my little brother found out my parents were getting divorced. First time he smiled in weeks. This makes me want to hug my brother, but I won't see him for another 3 months. I will occasionally slap my arms against my stomach and flop around making walrus grunting noises if I realize my boyfriend and I are having one of those stupid arguments that should not be. I did something similar to this once. My husband now refers to me as his little love hawker. It was my first date with a woman I really liked, so I was trying to make a good impression by being a courteous driver. On a one-lane street, I stopped at a crosswalk to let an old lady with a walker cross. The Mercedes convertible driving jerk behind me started honking his horn and flashing his lights. I got out of my car, gave him my keys, and said, "Here." He asked, "What the heck are these for?" I replied, "You run her over." "I don't have the heart." He started laughing and simmered down immediately. Later, my date said she was terrified I was going to get into a fight. Not much chance. The guy was huge. Not my story, but it qualifies. My husband is a big guy, 6'5", and his adoptive mother is a tiny, 5'1", blonde Jewish woman. My husband was in high school, and one day he came home to his mom angry and yelling about something. He calmly walked up to her, picked her up, walked her into her bedroom, set her on the bed, and said, "You need to calm down." Walked out and shut the door. She said she just sat there in complete shock, not sure if she should be pee or laughing hysterically. I was expecting him to pull a Hagrid and put her on the dresser. Drat. I read this somewhere on Reddit ages ago. Whenever you see two people fighting, run up between them and shout, "I will do it, I will take the ring to Mordor." Complete with, "But I do not know the way," after the short pause as they try to comprehend what you just said. Whenever I would start to get angry, my ex would start to make a snarly face, make his hands into claws and slowly inch towards me. Knowing what was coming, I would get even angrier until he would pounce on me and start to do this mauling growling thing to my neck. It used to make me laugh so hard I couldn't breathe. My favorite technique is what I call the baby Wookiee voice. I get a very sad face and start making, for lack of a better term, Wookiee noises at her. For some reason this is a strange combination of terrifying and cute as frick. So she starts laughing nervously and then we can talk about whatever it was without yelling. I told this to my wife, who laughed coyly before responding, "If you try anything like that, I will murder you in your sleep." My friend would always butt into an argument between friends with, guys, I'm gay." Sometimes he'd pose this as a question, and no, he isn't gay. I jumped on top of them and blew out of my mouth to make my lips flap. Then in a crazy sounding voice I shouted, "I'ma do that to you, Belly." It was my friend. We are both 20-year-old guys. It worked. His fear wiped out his anger. Brain. Holy crap, I've never seen this before. Don't freaking move. I don't know what I do, but my wife has no chance at all around me when she's angry. I can freak up in the most unimaginable manly ways and within minutes she's punching me for making her laugh. Then she gets mad that I made her unmad and it starts all over again. I feel like Louis CK in our house, but the second I'm in public I come off like Carlos Mencia. I feel like Louis CK in our house, but the second I'm in public I come off like Carlos Mencia. You, sir, have made the best comparison in history. A similar story, only I was the mad girlfriend. My ex-boyfriend and I were flying back home from somewhere and we got in a big fight in the airport just before boarding. I had gone to sit by myself in the lounge, but was stuck with him when it came time to board because we had to sit next to each other on the plane. I picked up the in-flight magazine and started working on the crossword puzzle, ignoring him. He picked up his in-flight magazine and started the crossword puzzle as well. I should mention that he never does the crossword puzzle and I found it odd but kept ignoring him nonetheless. He was just plugging along, filling in the words, slowly at first, then picking up speed. After 10 minutes or so, he turned to me and asked, "What did you get for 32 down?" and pointed to his puzzle. I looked at it and instead of the answers he had written a whole story about how much he loved me and was sorry for being an butt. It was so funny and sweet and dorky, I couldn't stay mad at him. During an argument, I very sincerely told my husband to stop being grumples. He thought it was cute, so he stopped being grumples. Now he uses my word all the time. I'm pretty little, a steady 5'1", and my boyfriend is pretty close to 6'4". When he is being crabby and won't loosen up about something, I take a running start and tackle hug him, which seems about as effective as a bird hitting a tree. I cling tightly and resist his efforts to throw me off, which always ends in him giggling and sighing, "Oh, I love you." The cuteness is with you. Going the other way around, my ex and I were driving around and we had gotten into a little snippy argument and I was mad. It was a blizzardy snowstorm out, and he rolled down my window and locked it and demanded I give him a kiss or freeze and made a bunch of jokes about the latter. I was so angry but was laughing so hard and caved. I live in Southern California, so rain is a big deal here. One night my husband and I went out and it was cold, for us, and raining, so I wore my heavy pea coat with a hat, scarf and gloves. We got in a little tiff and he refused to unlock the car door so we could leave until I forgave him. He was only wearing a long sleeve t-shirt. I just stood there laughing at him until he caved. My girlfriend wasn't angry, but one day we were wrestling and goofing around when I tried to put her in an armbar. I accidentally ripped one right by her head and she starts screaming at me, "Oh my god, I'm going to get pinky." I start laughing maniacally, which caused her to laugh so hard she was almost crying. Thanks, your story just made me snore. In the middle of talking to them, get really quiet and really still, like you just heard something odd. Tell them to hush, wait, and let out the loudest fart you can. Works every time. One time my girlfriend and I were having an argument. Something had set us off on the ride home and we were both doing that awesome Mature, I'm not going to talk until you talk first crap. We stomped upstairs and I began putting the leftovers away. My girlfriend is rather short and she went to get a glass out of the cupboard. I watched as she leaned up on her tiptoes to get the glass and couldn't make it. She tried again and then looked over defeated and said, Could you just get me a dang glass down? We both laughed until we nearly burst, kissed and made up. She was giving me the cold shoulder in a parking lot, so I started buzzing like a bee and chased her back to the car where she started laughing. Whenever my husband is getting all pissy with whatever game he's playing, usually COD, I'll reach over and put his mic on mute and we'll frick while he's still trying to play. Calms him down and I get my husband back for a while. Or, that's adorable, you're his battle mount. When I'm annoyed off at my fiancé for a stupid reason, he'll wait until we're going to bed and the lights are turned off and then trap me with him under the blankets and talk to me in the whale voice from Finding Nemo. Only, he's a sperm whale and it always ends in us snuggle fucking. I'm going to marry the crap out of him. D. When my wife gets off at me, and it's not something major, I'll puff out my cheeks, cross my eyes and wiggle my ears. Screws her up every time. Happened to a friend in high school. A kid was texting on his phone. Teacher, really? Put that thing away. I never wanna see you whip it out again. Friend, that's what she said. The teacher laughed for a good 5 minutes before saying, you know, I should punish you for saying that, but you're off the hook for making me laugh so hard. 5 minutes is a really long time. Years ago, my mom got mad at me for not taking out the trash or something minor like that. She has a bit of a temper sometimes, and this was one of those times, so she was yelling at me and cursing my name. Being the addicted gamer that I was at the time, I got annoyed at her and yelled back, God damn it mom, it's my stepdad's turn to get yelled at. I'll go yell at him. That seemed to completely disarm her and she busted out laughing. I didn't get in trouble. We had just got back from the mall and I was wearing some new clothes when me and my girlfriend got into an argument. Eventually she was so upset with me she ended up crying and I was hugging her to console her. She was crying pretty hard on me and it's pretty messy when I remembered that we just got back from the mall and without thinking I look at her and say, this is a new shirt so. She bursts out laughing at the audacity of what I just said. It was a pretty nice shirt though. Man, that could have ended really badly for you. When my husband was getting frustrated dealing with our computer, I pulled my shirt over my head, did not take it completely off, just covered my head up, and ran into the room, yelling hockey fight with my boobs out. I'm a huge dork. One time during a heated argument with my BF, I whipped out a boob and pretended to shoot imaginary lasers with it yelling, pew pew pew. He busted out laughing, and all was well with us again. Is this how she tells the story? Or does she tell people that her abusive husband tried to smother her when you were fighting? Murderer. I start singing why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends really loud? It usually gets them to laugh. When I was a little kid, probably around 5, I didn't want to go to bed. My dad was pee and ran into my room yelling, belt in hand. He slammed his belt down on my bed and screamed, do you know what I'm going to do if you don't go to bed? I just looked up at him and said in my most matter-of-fact voice, spank my bed. He said he started crying. He was laughing so hard. He ran out of the room in tears and I wound up not being punished at all. In the middle of an argument with my girlfriend, I was quiet for a few seconds. When she was done talking, then asked, serious as can be, who would win in a fight, a pterodactyl or a shittopotamus? She couldn't help but laugh. My mom was furiously yelling at me when I paused and said, spread mom. I'm going back in, while making a diving motion to her crotch. This was at the dinner table and my entire family started laughing hysterically and I got out of being grounded for the weekend. Sweet Jesus. Start strutting towards my so at the time like a chicken, letting out a cluck every now and then just start giving pecking kisses to them. It's even more effective if you do it to them mid-sentence. If they get pee, jump back acting scared and scream bagger york. If they don't laugh at you, then you're in deep crap. So drunk me got into a fight with one of my friends. Before this verbal argument got heated, I had ordered a large pepperoni extra cheese pizza. When the pizza arrived, I was pretty upset with my friend. I accepted the pizza from the delivery man and without even opening the box to look at this drunken treat, I threw the pizza at the ceiling as hard as drunkenly possible. I have never witnessed an explosion like that. The entire pizza turned into red mist that covered the ceiling, walls, and door. While everyone was still in shock, I quickly left the room, but it was, and still is, one of the best drunken stories that I have. Everyone in the room quickly got in a better mood, except me, since I had to find a new sleeping arrangement at a strange university. I hope my friend, who is a Redditor, reads this. Ah yes, the sage words of Rubber Fisting Mitten. So I have this friend who loves to start drama over absolutely nothing when she's drunk. It usually consists of unintelligible babbling up in your face. It's quite annoying and any verbal attempts to console her usually fail. So one night I took a different approach that I saw in a movie once. I grabbed her and held her in the longest closed mouth kiss ever. When I pulled off, she was stunned and I said, "That's how you deal with a girl who's got the yaps." Her friend who was standing there just busted up laughing and she quickly followed suit. A few days ago my husband forgot to pick me up from work in time, and while I was calling him furious because it was raining and the office was already locked, he yelled back at me and said, "Hey, quit being an angry fetus." I was so surprised on what he said I didn't even knew how to react. I said okay and hanged up. I asked what he meant about it later and he said, "Moo. Yeah, he's weird." Oh man, I love this story. Even though no one ever sees my stories I type out. Anyway, me and my brother were driving to my friend's college to see him and were on the interstate. He never used an iPhone and I showed him how to use Google Maps as I drove since I'm the better driver. He gets overwhelmed and has me turn onto the wrong exit. So I'm P and he's defensive. We're just driving silently and pulling onto the turnpike. A pizza. He had a slice of pizza on a paper plate for later on the dashboard. Very slowly crawling from one side of the dashboard to the other the whole turnpike, and as soon as it hit the other side we both busted out laughing. And to this day we love the awkward moment breaking pizza. My girlfriend was pissed at me for not listening or something. I don't really remember why, as I wasn't listening. As I was getting a talking to, I bent down and starting feeling the front of her calves, muttering in a confusing voice, "Where the frick are they?" After a whole minute she bites and screams, "What the frick are you doing?" And I respond with, "Looking for your cranky boots." She just fricking lost it laughing. That to this day we don't remember why she was mad. Only assumptions. I was drinking a Pepsi and a person who I had offended earlier in the day saw me and ran toward me. I knew he loved the Big Lebowski, so I said, "Watch it, man. There's a beverage here," and he immediately cracked up. Then he punched me in the face. My boyfriend does all sorts of stuff for me. He always tells me to relax and he always makes me tea. He is so good at it, and he wraps me up in blankets too, calling me his sweeter burrito. The more I write this and think about it, the more I love him and know he's the one for me. When my husband's agitated at me over silly things, I'll get in his face, throw my hands up in the air and chest bump him. Seeing as how boobies are great to him in any situation, it always brings a smile to his face. The other day I threw in a few "what, you mad bro" up in there and got some chuckles too. I think I'll add those in the future since they worked so well. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.